Good Erev Shabbos, Pashas Vigash. I want to share with you a truly incredible tool that each and every one of us can utilize in our day-to-day lives to enhance every human interaction that we have with every individual that we face. I think that there's a beautiful pshat that can be said on the pasuk, Vigash elav Yehuda, Vayomer, Bi Adoni yedaber na avdecha davar ba'oznei Adoni. Va'yichar apcha ba'avdecha. Then Yehuda went up to him, meaning referring to Yosef, who was the viceroy of all of Egypt. This is the fourth time that we're hearing the story of what happened between Yosef, the brothers, Yehuda, and so on. And he says, "Please, my Lord, let your servant appeal to my Lord. Do not be impatient with your servant." I was on a plane flying once from Eretz Yisrael to the States, and we were sitting in the first row in business. All of a sudden, 4 agents of the Shin Bet, the Shabak, get on the plane, and the purser of the plane approaches us and asks us to vacate our seats and kicks us out of our seats. But they moved us to the last row of first class, in the good old days when they used to have first class. And it was all we knew. We didn't know who was coming on or anything else. After takeoff, I went to take a look who had taken our seats, and I saw this fellow with a very prominent mustache. That was his signature, the mustache. I immediately recognized him as Amir Peretz, who at the time had been, for a very short period of time, the defense minister of the state of Israel. Incredibly, on that very, very flight, in the Jerusalem Post that was sitting on our seat, he was on the front page looking through binoculars backwards, and the cap was on. And he was standing on the border with Lebanon, looking through the binoculars with the cap on backwards. It was a huge embarrassment. I don't know what got into me. I walked over to him, came from first, went back to business, and I said to him, Shalom Aleichem, and he stood up. And he was a short guy who actually had like stilts on his heels on his shoes. And then I greeted him and I told him, I said, look, it's obvious that you're going on a very important mission. And this may be the most important mission you go on in your life. I had no idea what he was going for. I knew he was obviously going to see the President of the United States. And I told him, I said, you just have to understand, you're a representative of all the Klal Yisrael, the Dori Doris. And what goes in Israel stays in Israel. Forget about the huge slap in the face that you have, the picture in the newspaper, the binoculars. We've seen it here. Nobody else cares about it. It's like the expression, what goes in Vegas stays in Vegas. Don't worry about that. What you need to worry about and think about is you have Moshe Rabbeinu, you have all the Nevi'im, all the Chachamim, all of the Dairis of Klal Yisrael, the Zakenim, the Rishonim, the Achronim, all of these Dairis of Klal Yisrael are on your shoulders with you, and you are there as a shliach, a physical manifestation of Klal Yisrael, representing Klal Yisrael with whatever particular bakasha you have to the President of the United States. And understand one thing. Just as the pasuk says, Vayigash elav Yehuda, Vayomer Bi Adoni, and Yehuda understood that he was speaking not to Yosef, not to the viceroy of Egypt. He was speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was addressing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but looking at the physical manifestation of Yosef, the viceroy of Mitzrayim. You too, if you understand, Minister Peretz, that you are speaking not to the President of the United States, but you are speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you're making that bakasha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you will have siyata d'shmaya l'mal min haderech hateva. And I gave him a bracha. I said, listen, chazak ve'ematz, understand you're speaking to Hashem, and only to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then you will have hatzlacha l'mal min haderech hateva wilder than your greatest imagination. And kachava, and he actually shook my hand profusely, and he gave me a hug. He embraced me. It was the only time I ever met him. And then, incredibly, his wife got up, and she shook my hand profusely, several times. She just kept shaking my hand, and they just kept saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the chizuk. The whole lesson was the lesson of this week's parsha, which is a lesson for us, each and every one of us in our daily lives, when we need to speak to our boss, when we need to speak to a business deal, when we're trying to make a transaction, when we need to speak to anybody, any human interaction, we should understand that every human being is a physical manifestation, but we are addressing the Shekhinah HaKdosha. Only the Shekhinah can change things for us. Only the Shekhinah can give us what we need. And in that schus, we will truly receive all the brachas that we need from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The end of the story was 7 years later, I found out that meeting with Amir Peretz, with the President of the United States, resulted in the funding of the Iron Dome. It was the only time he traveled to the States. He was only defense minister for maybe 6 months, but he secured the funding for the Iron Dome. And you think about it, how many incredible thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lives were saved by that device, which is clearly Yad Hashem. The Iron Dome also is a physical manifestation of the Shekhinah's protection for Klal Yisrael. Have a wonderful Shabbos.